All right, everyone. And we are live once again for our 11th episode of KC Reacts. I'm Kevin Hammer,
I'm Chris Barrett.
and we're excited to be on here tonight. So, with Mother's Day just around the corner, we did really want to do a stream in reference to this. But specifically, when Chris and I were having a conversation, we also want to talk about how Mother's Day, like so many other normal things in our culture, motherhood is very much under attack, especially when it comes to trans ideology. So, Chris and I thought we'd do a Mother's Day stream where, we really do stick to honoring mothers, actual women, right, who raise children, who nurture children, who help form children into the adults that they will become. Because, I mean, I know my mother meant so much to me, God rest her soul. And when I see individuals out there trying to basically co-opt that, right? They're trying to take that, what motherhood is. It makes me think of my mother. It makes me think of all the mothers in my life that I love. And I'm not gonna lie, it ticks me off. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, it's another. I think I'll say this again at some other point. It's a note that I made, but it's yet another usurping of womanhood by these men
Oh,
pretending to be
absolutely.
women, or a usurping of womanhood, by these men pretending to be women, and I guess that's the thing that just kind of makes me angry. It's like you're trying to go out of your way to be a female and you just aren't. You just aren't. It's like give it up.
Hmm.
You're a man. You can't celebrate Mother's Day. Get over yourself, you
Yep.
narcissistic jerk.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. And as another reminder, though, folks, before we jump into the videos, remember Mother's Day is just around the corner. So you have that special mother in your life, or mothers, in regards to, say you have several moms in your life. Our godson, his mother, she's gonna get acknowledgement for Mother's Day, my mother-in-law. There's so many amazing women in our lives who are mothers, and we can't wait. Well, you should always show them respect, but this day especially is for them, and we can't wait but to help make it a special day for them. Um, but speaking of special in a different sense, how about we jump right into the videos? Because
Yeah,
we got a lot to get through, folks, for sure.
let's get to the trans madness. It's always
Oh
fun.
goodness, yep. Let's get to the mother of trans lies. Now, our first clip just jumps right into it, and this is by an individual who calls himself Dr. Rachel McKinnon. And he asks, is it okay for trans women to be mommy, to be called mommy? So let's get into it.
Little bit more trans studies-y. Let's talk about Mother's Day and is it okay for trans women to be a mommy? Is it okay for trans women to take on the mantle of motherhood? I've talked to a lot of trans women who have children before they transitioned. I don't have kids, full disclaimer. There's a very common concern that for a trans woman to go from being dad, daddy, or the father to taking on mom, mommy, or mother is somehow taking away from their wife or partner or their children's mother, or that it's somehow usurping something that belongs to the original mother. That's the sort of language I see pretty commonly, the taking away from, or even the language of usurping. And I want to suggest that this thought that mother, and therefore Mother's Day, belongs to the cis mother in the partnership is both cis sexist and heteronormative. heteronormative.
All right. So okay, I had to cut it there because I mean, at this point, he just hits all those, those buzzwords, right? Cis sexist, which I hadn't really heard that one that much before. Heteronormative, just all those bulletin points, just one right after another. And that's really what my notes was about because, cis sexist and heteronormative, of course, they have to go with those buzzwords he does. Now, what's interesting is that this is taking away a great number of things. That's what Dr. Rachel here just completely pushes aside. This is taking away something that is unique, right? So it's not a matter of if it's okay, because Rachel said, is it okay for a trans woman to, be called mommy or all this stuff? It's not a matter of whether it's okay or whether it's not okay. It's the fact that it can't happen in reality. A quote unquote trans woman cannot be a mother and therefore cannot be a mommy and cannot partake in Mother's Day, at least not in authentic fashion. Absolutely not. Chris, what do you have to say?
Okay. So I have long said, and I think I've said on this podcast before, the straight trannies are the one. Whoops, I said that word. Hope we don't get booted off YouTube. But the straight trans women are the ones who are usually the most concerning to me because you'll notice um, he uses the term about taking away from your partner. So
Mm-hmm.
he's instantly assuming a heterosexual relationship, which
Yeah.
then number two goes to what's he talking about heteronormativity then? Because the relationship that he is evidently in or aspires to be in is a heterosexual relationship. So I mean, he is the epitome of heteronormativity, except what this is a man pretending to be a woman, taking away from the rightful place of his wife or female partner.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple.
And the one saving grace, in my opinion, is the fact that, as he said, and I mean, at least in this current mental state, he's like, I don't have children. That's
Thank
that's
God.
that's a positive. Thank God for that. However, it's not going to stop him from targeting children and, well, women as well. So with that, this may have annoyed some people, Dr. Rachel right here, but these next two clips really got under my skin. Especially because here we have an individual, a man who's saying that he's a woman, right? And not only that, he's a trans lesbian mother, right?
So
And
to my point, as I was saying, yet another insane heterosexual man trying to get into women's spaces.
yes. Yes, but the way that this man specifically speaks about his own child, his son, just got under my skin. And I mean, you watch for yourself. And hey, am I being too sensitive with this? Because my heart goes out to this poor child that has to deal with this individual that goes by Maya. So let's just jump right into the first of two clips for that.
Right. Maya identifies as a lesbian trans mom who to me has an amazing story. So let's jump right into it. Maya, you have an 8-year-old son.
Actually, I have a 15-year-old son.
Oh wait, duh. You transitioned when he was 8.
Yes.
But now he is 15, which means you have transitioned for how long now?
Well, in May will be 7 years. So wait, we're in May.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been 7 years.
7 years since you've transitioned.
Since I started the process, yeah. It was November of 2010 when I came out to my son. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life because, as parents, we want to protect our kids.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them to feel pain or hurt in any way. And here I was completely changing his life, and it was something that was out of his control and something he probably wasn't going to want, but I had to do it anyway for my own good. And it's
All right.
Bingo.
So Just a few
Bingo.
points right there from me, right? And I'm sure Chris, you're right on top of those as well, right? So son was his son was 8 years old when he decided to basically destroy his son's world, right? Just completely turn it upside down, right? And no, sir, you don't seem to want to protect your son at all. And then finally, these words to me just sum up how selfish this individual is, in my opinion, for my own good. Doesn't that really sum up this man, this Maya individual, right? For my own good. Didn't matter what his son wanted, didn't matter what would hurt his son. He had to do what was for his own good, which meant depriving his son of actually a father figure to a degree. I mean, this man is still his son's father, not mother, but still in a way trying to strip his son of a father and then usurp his son's mother of that motherhood. At least that's my take on it. Chris, what's yours?
All right, so the very first thing is liberal middle class women are a scourge on our society. Middle class liberal women are a scourge on our society. I just want to say that, and that's obviously what this black woman is. It's usually the white ones, so it makes me feel kind of gross. But oh well. Anyway, I of course zeroed in right away on the fact that this person or this man was saying that,
Mm-hmm.
I had to do it for my own good. And just to expand on what you said, because I don't really have anything super new to add, but the funny thing is, like, I think about my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of the decisions that they made when I was a kid was for my good and my brother's good,
Mm.
not their own good. They sacrificed a
Exactly.
lot for me. And if either one of them were inclined to have done something stupid like this, which of course they wouldn't, but let's say they were inclined to do it, I can guarantee you they would not do that when I was 8 years old. They probably wouldn't do it
Mm-hmm.
when I was in my 20s, because they have that kind of mentality about, no, I can't do I or not I can't, but I'm not going to do what's necessarily good for me. I'm going to do what's good for my child. And this man
Exactly.
clearly doesn't give a damn about what's good for his child.
No, absolutely. And in our second clip of this individual, that's just absolutely reinforced. Folks, you thought this clip was bad? Let's hop into the second clip because honestly, it just gets worse.
Does your son call you mom or dad?
He calls me neither. When it came time for him to pick what he wanted to call us, because that's what therapists said we should allow him to do. We actually went through a whole long list, because what some trans parents do is they find a word that means mom in another language.
Okay.
Oh
wow, that's interesting too.
Yeah, and I've known some people who've combined like mommy, daddy, and call themselves Maddie.
Maddie.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard Maddie.
And so we gave him all these options, and he chose to call me by my chosen middle name, because my full name is Melody Maya Monet, and he calls me Maya.
Maya. And how does that make you feel?
Sometimes it feels like he's robbing me of my public parent, identity. Because when we're out in public and he calls me Maya, it's like people automatically think that I am neither his mom or his dad. I'm a family friend. I am maybe his aunt, but not his parent. And that hurts a little. But, it's one of the sacrifices I've made to allow him to be comfortable in this new configuration of our family.
All right. So, all right, my dude, your son is robbing you? Again, who's the parent here? Your son is robbing you of something. To reiterate, you're not going to talk about how you're robbing him of a healthy father figure and, the fact that you're trying to usurp the role of mother. Like you're trying to rob your son of many different things here, and he's robbing you. And keep in mind when this woman is interviewing Maya, because the black woman actually is a biological woman from what I know. She's interviewing Maya here. Maya's son is 15 years old, right? He was 8 when his father came out to him as trans. So he's saying that his 15-year-old son is robbing him. All right. And then just the ridiculous, the absolute foolishness of the mommy and daddy putting it together and getting Maddie. Come on, folks. Seriously. Chris, what's your response?
Well, the biggest thing that stood out for me as well was the fact that phrase, "My child is robbing me." So
Mm-hmm.
you're essentially sitting there admitting that you see your child as a deficit to your life, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to an asset, of some sort. So you're calling your child some sort of detrimental thing to your life. You think that it's taking away from your parenthood. It's like, well, my stupid idiot trans man, woman, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, you are not a parent. And it is rightful that your child stripped you of your parenthood. Good on your child for doing that. And maybe you should take some time to actually sit there and think about why that actually happened. There is a reason your child isn't interested in calling you mommy because you're a man. And, I mean, I guess the last thought is it's a perfect example of the sociopathic, narcissistic nature of trans people in general. Not all, there are exceptions for sure, but at least the ones who really buy into this gender ideology, it is a great example of that because this person is clearly trying to play on the audience's heartstrings and bring sympathy into himself. You know,
Yeah.
feel sorry for me. Feel sorry for me. My child has turned me into a victim.
Mm-hmm.
That is classic narcissist behavior right there.
Yeah. And it really is the fact that a trans ideology, at least how we see it, how it's presented here and how it's presented often, because a lot of people would agree with this man, being upset that his son is robbing him, his 15-year-old son is robbing him, of something, is that it really is a selfish ideology. It's
Hmm.
always about the me, about me. And a selfish ideology is not truly compatible with parenthood. It just
No.
can't be. Not in a healthy fashion.
No,
This poor
because as a
boy.
parent, you're making lots and lots of sacrifices for your kids. And
Mhm.
this person isn't willing to even make the least bit of a sacrifice for their kid, evidently. And to me, the least they could do is hold off on this crazy path that they're deciding to go down until their kid is an adult on their own, that sort of thing. But no,
Mhm.
he's not able to wait for that. He must do it now. He must screw up this kid's childhood, in order to
Yeah.
make himself feel better. And that's why I say there is a high, high level of narcissistic personality disorder among trans people, guys. Look it up. It is a for real thing. These are not innocent people. Narcissists are not innocent people. They are kind of gross people.
Yeah, and they kind of, and in general, we see this a lot. I mean, we especially see it with the trans ideology, this selfishness, which, like we said, is not compatible with parenthood in a healthy fashion. But when you are a parent, in a number of circumstances, if there is something you desire, it does take that back seat. And not just in this case, like obviously, if he wanted to present as a woman, pretend to be a woman, he should have absolutely waited for his son to be a grown man and out of the house and at least have had a chance at a somewhat normal childhood. But there's also other circumstances. There are situations where, I'm sorry, if it's just like you and your spouse aren't, getting along in marriage, and I mean, I'm not talking about physical abuse or something like that. I'm talking about you're just not getting along and your children are still fairly young. Yeah, stick it out. Because why are you going to do this to your children? Why are you going to tear your children's lives apart when it's just you're bored in your marriage? I've seen couples break up for those reasons. And these are husbands and wives, and they just absolutely destroy the lives of their children. And it's all, once again, it's a reflection of a very selfish nature and selfish ideology.
Hmm.
um
Oh, and might
with
I add one last example, yet another heterosexual trans woman.
Yeah,
They
you
are
touched
the
on that. I know you
they are
you
the
always
craziest
point that out
ones.
because it's so common, right?
They are the craziest ones, you know.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, we're actually so you know how sometimes, Chris, you'll see someone say something that it's like it's touching on reality, or it's on the same plane as reality, and it's like you just need to go a little bit further and you'll be there. And that is why I included this next clip, because this guy, he at least is somewhat in touch with reality. So I did want to give a little bit of credit where credit is due, because I do like to try to do that. So this gentleman right here is discussing about he's trans, he's a trans woman, so a man pretending to be a woman. And he's talking about how people are wishing him a happy Mother's Day, and then he goes a little bit more into depth about that. So you'll see what I mean.
This weekend, I was out at the store with my kiddos, and many people wishing me Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day. There was moments where I just was taken aback. Where a couple of years ago, that wasn't the case. People didn't really see me as female. I was kind of in early transition. Even a year ago, I didn't get it much, but this year I got a ton of Happy Mother's Day. And the interesting thing is, and I was having a conversation with a friend this morning, is that, even though it's Mother's Day, I don't actually personally celebrate Mother's Day, because my kids are actually dad in their world. Actually, celebrate Father's Day. And so it's just one of the funny quirks of queerness and transness. But I'm thankful for people who have said it, and I hope that whatever this day is for you, that you enjoy it.
All right. So, like I said, I'd give him that. He celebrates Father's Day because he is a father. Even if he is not like a dad image wise visually, he is a father. So I give him that. But he also says, one of those little quirks of queer and trans identity and stuff like that. So obviously he's not against a quote unquote trans woman usurping motherhood. He's not obviously against it. I'm guessing that there maybe it was his personal belief that, okay, I'm going to be a father to my children, even though I'm presenting as a woman, I'm still going to be a father to them. Or maybe it was pressure from other areas in his life, right? From other people saying, no, we're not gonna play this game. But either way, I at least say, hey, he's acknowledging that he is a father, and he's correct. Father's Day is still for him, no matter how effeminate he is. But you can tell he's not exactly on that, no, Mother's Day is not for trans women at all. So, yeah. What's your response, Chris?
Okay. Well, yeah, it's good that he celebrates Father's Day. However, look what the confusing situation that he's already setting up for his kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a huge fail as a parent right there. He's obviously still getting off, and I use those words intentionally, getting off on being recognized as a mother on Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And um
Because he doesn't
Again,
correct it. He doesn't correct it, right?
doesn't correct it, and yet, and mind you, guys, Kevin did not run these videos by me before he chose them. He just sent me the list. And then I watched them. I made notes on them. That's kind of what we usually do, unless I have a specific video that I really want to focus on. Otherwise, Kevin's generally our editor. Okay, here's the thing. I'm going to point this out yet again. This is a heterosexual man. There's a reason I keep pointing this out, guys, because there is this misunderstanding, especially among certain religious conservatives, that same sex marriage led to all of this insanity. Well, without even planning on doing this, every single one of these creeps that Kevin brings up in these videos are all heterosexual men. Same-sex marriage did not lead to any of this craziness.
There is one exception, but yeah, you're actually correct. There, yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, the only way it maybe led to helped lead to it, and that's the extent of what I'm willing to say is maybe assisted in leading to it, is that the gay rights machinery and stuff like that got bored because there was no more gay rights to fight for. And then these crazies came in and infiltrated those gay rights organizations, took them over, took all of the money that they had,
Mm-hmm.
all the machinery and all that type of stuff. And then they did promote this trans stuff. So, in that regard, maybe, I guess you could say that. But still, what should have happened is those organizations, guys, should have closed down. They should have closed up
Mm-hmm.
shop. There was no reason for GLAD, HRC, Lambda Legal, any of that type of stuff to be around
Yeah,
anymore. And those things
absolutely.
should have been closed down. But the main point that I'm really trying to make here is, guys, if same-sex marriage led to all of this, then why is it the vast majority of the real creeps that we're seeing out there are heterosexual men like this
Mm-hmm.
dude? And so, my bigger point, and I guess this is what I want to get to here, is that, you know, this is not a homosexual or a heterosexual problem. This trans problem is a societal problem. Our society's sick. It's sick. And this is an outgrowth of a sick society.
Yeah,
And so, I want to see us stop blaming who caused all of this,
yeah.
because I'm not blaming straight people. If you kind of get my gist at this point, I'm just saying they're just as responsible for this crap as homosexuals are as well, and maybe even more so.
So
That's it.
it's interesting, Chris, because for me, and we've had this discussion many times, and it's also part of why I have no desire to reclaim the community, right?
Right.
That's often even conservative homosexuals that I meet, they want to reclaim the community. My response to that is always no, the cancer has spread to the bones and the brain. I want nothing to do with it. In regards to the organizations that existed, right? I've always said that two things kind of happened, and they coincided, of course, and that allowed this nuttery to take hold. Is well, first of all, when legal protections were secured, right? Those who were fighting, the more sane individuals who were just in it for those legal protections, they stepped back and left, right? They were less involved in it. Now, those types were also often the types who were keeping the crazies at bay on the fringes, right? These were the fringe elements. This guy right here was the fringe elements at one point, and they were kept at bay overall by the people who were just looking for those legal protections when it comes to them and their spouse, right? Um, so those individuals left, but also what what do many organizations learn? Not just LGBT organizations. You have the NAACP. A lot of organizations learn what about victimhood? There's money to be made in it.
Hmm.
And that has been seen again and again and again. Organizations start up, and some of them for legitimately good reasons. But once they're no longer needed, they've gotten used to that money. They've gotten used to the fame, the faces of the organization, of these organizations. They're used to going on networks, right? They are used to being in the limelight. So they need to find another cash cow. And those who were pushing for same-sex marriage, a legal acknowledgement of those unions, right? Those who were leading those organizations got used to the money and or the fame, and they needed a new cash cow, and of course it was trans ideology and all this gender confusion.
And I really do, guys, I really do agree with Kevin. I maybe take one little different approach on that. And here's the thing. Ultimately, this really had very little to do with same-sex marriage or even the organizations that supposedly had something to do with same-sex marriage. Because if you'll remember, same-sex marriage was not won by the HRC or GLAAD or any of that type of stuff. Same-sex marriage was won by individuals suing the federal government who weren't a part of any of these organizations. So, I mean, and I remember being very, as a former member of HRC, actually being very frustrated in the fact that they seem to have kind of a lackadaisical sort of attitude about same-sex marriage. They really did, you know, but because, I almost, and maybe it makes more sense now that hindsight is 2020. It was almost like they really didn't want to win that battle. And it kind of makes sense given that they were looking for a perpetual cash cow.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, you know me, Chris. I'm unapologetically pro-life, right?
Hmm.
And while I believe there's so many amazing pro-lifers out there who wanted Roe v. Wade overturned and are still fighting, right? There were those who had made so much money off from being pro-life, right? They had reached fame, and like I said, so issue after issue, right? We see that in our politics all the times. No matter what the political affiliation is, right? When a party is in power that could address something that they say they were going to do for a very long time, they don't often. And why is that? Because what else will they have to campaign on? And what else will they have to make money on if they actually solve the problems that they say they want to solve? That
Yeah.
might be, call me a cynic, but we've seen it again and again and again.
I guess we're both cynics, Kevin, because I 100%
Exactly,
agree with you.
exactly. I know. All right, so with that, we're going to jump to our next video. We both dove in on this one, but
Yeah.
we're going to go to our next one where we have Eden the doll. Now, some of you might recognize Eden the doll, a trans woman, because he does talk about how he is a biological male and does not like, so he's rooted in a bit of reality that way. However, like with this individual, while he's rooted in reality in a specific way, he's an individual. He's an individual who clearly is disconnected from reality in other ways. And right here is a prime example of that, because here we have Eden the doll talking about being a stepmother, right? So let's just jump right into this one.
It's Mother's Day, and never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be in a position to celebrate today. I've always known I could never have kids, so the idea of being a mother was always out of the question for me. Before I met my fiance, I had never really been around kids, or honestly even liked kids. I knew that wasn't in the cards for me, so I never really went out of my way to imagine life as a mother. But all this changed 2 years ago when I met my stepson. I didn't think of the long-term effects it would have on me or how my life would completely change, because meeting my stepson has completely changed everything. My life doesn't revolve around me anymore. Every day is dedicated to entertaining him and making sure he is happy. He comes first, not me. And that was probably the biggest life adjustment I've ever had to make. because being a stepmother has been one of the biggest blessings I've ever had in my life. I'm so thankful I get to experience raising a child in my lifetime. I may have never wanted this for myself, but I think deep down I probably did because I'm damn good at it. Unfortunately, I didn't have the best relationship with my step-parents growing up, so I made it my mission to make sure me and my stepson have the best relationship possible, and I help give him the best life possible. Today is Mother's Day, and I hope all the bonus moms out there know how important and special we all are. Love has no boundaries, and to love a child as if they were your own is a huge deal. Step-parents get such a bad rep, and I know it may be hard at times, but trust me, it's all worth it in the end.
All right, so first, he acknowledges a broken home, right? That he himself comes from a broken home. So I didn't want to let that slide by. So Eden here is acknowledging that. But also, Eden, I mean, you are actually correct in one way, because it's still not in the cards for you, right? You still, in reality, cannot be a mother or a stepmother because you're a man. So yeah, it's still out of reach for you, Eden. This now, while extremely effeminate and presenting as a woman, you're still at most a stepfather, right? Because Eden, he is married to the boy's actual biological father, right, as well. So
But mind you, I just realized this is the exception. This was the one gay one you found.
yeah. So and if you notice though, when they are the gay ones, right, they go very Barbie doll often, right?
Yes, they
So this is
do.
another thing I've noticed, and you can say you can look this up and fight me on it, but I've noticed that the trans women who are just heterosexual men wanting to be with women, right, they always, you can tell, they look more like a rundown version of a woman, right? They have the glasses, or they have the greasy hair, like Maya there, right? I mean, just looks horrific. I am sorry. I know I'm in a bit of a mood there with Maya, but they look a certain way. But when you get the homosexual trans women, right? So men who want to become, women and then be with men, they often look like Barbie dolls,
Yeah, they
right?
do.
They really do. And I'm not saying this is 100%. I'm just saying it's something I've noticed myself. Even with the well-known, where there's a lot of respect for certain individuals, like Blair White. Blair White is the Barbie doll, right? And is attracted to men. So I'm just saying that's something I've noticed, that when it is a man who transitions to a woman, if they are a homosexual man, they go for the Barbie doll look of being a woman. If they are a heterosexual man, they tend to go for the frumpier look of a woman, right? Or the average soccer, not even soccer mom, but average, that kind of look.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out, but Chris, take it from there.
I think what it shows is that homosexual men are much better at doing makeup than heterosexual men ever could hope to be. So there you go. I mean, this is a homosexual man, and it shows. So anyway, um, but I don't want to really jump down this person's throat totally, with the exception of, yes, he's usurping Mother's Day. It's like, hon, you're not a stepmother, you're not a mother. At most, you are a stepfather, and that is all you are. You
Mhm.
need to be real about that. The main reason I did have a hard time really kind of jumping down this person's throat is he did say some key things that is unusual to hear from a trans person, which is the children come first. I do not
Mm.
come first. That's very unusual to hear from trans people. And so, I mean, while this is,
He's not Maya. He's not Maya. I will give him
right,
that,
right.
right?
So,
Yeah.
I mean, shame on the guy who brought his kids around this person. Shame on him. That's just gross. If that's something you want to do because you're a single man and you're into this sort of thing, that's your business. You go right ahead, but don't involve kids in it.
So, Chris,
Um, but and maybe on the flip side, this person, Eden, should have also realized that he's not an appropriate person to be around kids. I'm not saying that he's a physical threat. in the sense that, it means that he's a pervert or a pedophile. I'm not saying that. I understand that not every trans person is like that. In fact, the vast majority aren't. But what I am saying is, what a confusing situation for your kids to be around.
Mm.
And that's just unfair to them.
And from what I recall, Chris, the situation, I actually forget this guy's husband's name, but he's a teacher. He does those videos where he's this thin blonde skater boy looking guy, and he does a lot of those videos where he's talking to a classroom
Hmm.
about, DEI and all that kinds of stuff. He also has a video where he features his son wearing pink, choosing pink. And from what I recall, if I recall correctly, he's actually known this man, this Eden, for a very long time. They were at least teenage friends together. So they actually have a video, if I recall correctly, where it's like, I want, how are you, like, what are you and your male best friend doing now compared to when you were younger? Yeah. And he's like, I married my male my best friend, who's now a woman or something like that. Yeah. So there's a whole lot going on there, but specifically
Hmm.
here, I do want to, like I said, I want to acknowledge what you did, is that he did talk about putting the children first. And, he did talk about step parents getting a bad rap, because I do want to talk about step parents and also non biological parents. I was not raised by my birth parents, and I am so thankful to God for that. My birth parents were and are very lost souls. Both my parents who raised me, God rest their souls, they have passed on, but they were amazing. Right. They did all the stuff. My mother was a mother in every sense of the word, as an amazing woman. And my father was a father in every sense of the word, as an amazing man. Right. And they absolutely fulfilled those roles. But once again, they were actually being who they are. My mother was a mother. My father was a father. So yeah, I do want to give a shout out to the amazing mothers who are adoptive or stepmothers, that you are amazing as well, and I do think worthy of Mother's Day, because you are women who are really making a difference in a child's life in that way. So with that, though, we are going to move on to some more disturbing content. And trust me, I know for some of you might be thinking, well, this has seemed pretty disturbing, especially those Maya clips. Trust me, we're about to get into breastfeeding. Oh, excuse me. It's not,
Chest
it's
feeding,
chest feeding. Although I think
bigot.
these individuals do use breastfeeding, so they're bigots themselves. You probably have seen these clips before, but I'm gonna put you through that cycle again. All right, the spin cycle here.
Really thankful for Ahanu for creating our family.
Oh, I put it on here.
The baby has been able to latch, but I've not been able to produce any milk. It's okay, because we're gonna supplement the feeding with formula so that my baby's still getting the nutrients that they need, but I'm still feeling hopeful. I appreciate you so much for all your work. And I appreciate you also, baby. I couldn't have done it without you.
All right. So, I just want to say, first of all, if you notice here, we got a couple that is straight with extra steps, because if you notice, the one with the facial hair, I guess trying to present more as male, has the scars, so we are dealing with a woman there, and
Yeah,
the
there's a
one who's trying.
reason the mother can't breastfeed.
Yeah, and the one who's trying to breastfeed is obviously a man. So this is still a heterosexual couple. It's just some extra steps. But if you also notice, there's actually a question. They only put up the text for it. You can't actually hear the camera person ask, are they getting any milk? Is the baby getting any milk? Uh, Obviously not. We're going to go into a little bit more of why that would not be a good thing. But just overall, this is disturbing on so many levels. This really is the twisting and just perversion of parenthood, in my personal opinion. What do you think, Chris?
Well, yeah, so we went from the one homosexual sidestep back to heterosexual crazy town. Um and it is interesting, that these two people, will still pair up with each other as a man and a woman, but they've reversed their roles. That's, I mean, very interesting. They need to be studied. But anyway, this is always about affirming their delusion.
Mhm.
Because that woman, the one with the beard, should be the one actually breastfeeding. Duh. And you shouldn't be passing it off to your husband to attempt to do this. And I think that we're going to, um, one of the things that we need to maybe discuss real quickly with our audience, it is possible for men to lactate.
Yeah,
They
we're
have,
gonna jump into that one. Yeah.
right, it is possible. And, but it's because something has gone wrong. And so, this person, if presented with the opportunity, probably would try to get to the point of lactating. And how sad for this poor baby, because you notice they said the baby latched.
I
So
know.
but the baby's not getting anything
So
out of it.
could you imagine, Chris? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to throw this out
Oh,
there
you're
to the
fine.
audience. What would you do if you saw a mother, right, and the baby's crying, the baby's hungry, and she takes an empty bottle and puts it to the baby's mouth, and the baby's just trying to get some sustenance, and she's just there, la da 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 da. Oh, I'm so happy and in so much joy, while the baby has sucking from an empty bottle. Would that
Exactly,
not
Kevin.
infuriate
Exactly,
you?
Kevin. And not to
I
cut you
mean,
off. I mean, that is exactly what I'm getting at. That's exactly what I'm getting at. It's like, yeah, your baby's sucking, but for what reason?
yeah,
No reason whatsoever other than to fulfill your narcissistic trans fantasy that you're somehow a woman.
yep, absolutely. And we're about to dive a little bit further into male lactation with this next clip. Because, yes, folks, this does get more disturbing. Fortunately, this next clip doesn't have a baby featured in it, but that doesn't change that it's actually quite disturbing.
Achievement. Trans women can indeed lactate. You would follow the Newman-Goldfarb protocol, a medical protocol designed to help women induce lactation if they were not getting pregnant themselves. I'm gonna be a mother. That's in the works, in the process. And part of that process is that I am working to induce lactation to be able to breastfeed our youngest child. Yeah, actually mommy Naomi. I've actually already successfully induced lactation. I can actually make milk now, which has been a very interesting and very cool experience. It's very biologically affirming too, which is something that's gatekept from trans women, so difficult. Both motherly and
All right, it's gate kept from trans women. No, hon, no, my boy, that's nature. All right, it's
Right.
not gate kept from trans women. It's Mother Nature. It's God saying, no, your body isn't supposed to do that. But before I throw it to you, Chris, I do want to read a little bit about this, the Newman-Goldfarb protocols, right? These protocols are methods for inducing lactation, developed by Jack Newman and Lenore Goldfarb, designed to stimulate milk production and let down in women who wish to breastfeed but were not able to during pregnancies. These protocols typically involve using a combination of birth control pills and daprodone, along with breast pumping or nursing, to mimic the hormonal changes that occur during pregnancy and postpartum. Now, first of all, I'm going to be honest. The hormone part has me concerned, even if it's even if this is being used on an actual woman. But clearly, even this protocol is meant for women, right? But speaking of hormones, the hormones that this dude has to be introduced to lactate, right? Now we're gonna put that in a child. Chris, you and I had that discussion earlier where we hear many people argue about, on the left especially, about how you should never consume milk that comes from a cow that's had hormones injected into it, right? These people swear up and down, many of them on the left, there are people on the right, but many on the left swear up and down that you should not consume milk that comes from a cow that's been injected with the hormones. But many of them are perfectly fine with a baby consuming milk from a man who is lactating because of hormone treatment. That is insanity.
Well, I mean, obviously the hormones in the man is going to be passed on to the baby. So essentially what the baby's probably going to get, what I would imagine, since it's not coming from a person who has baseline female hormonal chemistry, but rather a man who has through the roof levels of estrogen being pumped into him. I can't help but think that there's got to be an estrogen overdose for that baby. So I'm just kind of like, what sort of interesting cocktails of drug are actually in that milk? you know
Mhm.
um Again, it's always about affirming their delusion. It's always about them. And then lastly, what what I thought was so interesting was it shows you what if you can go back to what was it, Naomi?
Oh, you want me?
Um yeah, I want to show something
All right.
that just in case the audience missed
How
it.
achievement. Trans women can indeed
Oh
lactate.
yeah,
You
you
would
can
follow
just
the
pause it.
Newman-Goldfarb
Okay.
protocol, a medical protocol.
You can see right here exactly what these trans women think of actual women. She calls this cow achievement. So she achieved being see, he achieved being what he considers to be a cow. So he thinks of women who are lactating as cows. That tells you
Mm,
everything you need to know about what these people think of you guys. Okay. Women,
mm.
do not be fooled into being your kind usual selves, because women do tend to be kinder and gentler than men. Not always, but sometimes they are. Do not be duped into letting your hearts go out to these people because they think you're a cow. That's what they think of you.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess, Chris, if you want to look on the silver lining, they think you're a cow that they want to be like. I don't.
Right, right, yeah. I guess let's be positive, Kevin.
I know, right? All right. So with that, though, we're going to go into what exactly does it mean if a man is lactating. All right, because hear this. All right. So just two bulletin points here. If you can't see them, I will read them. Lactating in a man can be a sign of an underlying medical condition that shouldn't be ignored. Conditions like hormonal imbalance, tumors, or hypothyroidism can cause lactation in men, right? The second bulletin point, other causes of male lactation can include medications, supplements, or nipple stimulation. Your healthcare professional can work with you to figure out the source of your lactation. Now, overall, maybe with the exception, but even then, if it's nipple stimulation, it's probably an aggravation that's taking place. But regardless, the majority that you see here, if a man is lactating, it means there is something wrong or something unnatural is happening. Even the supplements, right? The supplements, right? That means the supplements are interacting with his body and making him do something, his body do something that as a man it normally does not do. So if
Right.
you are a actual man who is lactating, it is not a natural thing. At the end of the day, it could be a sign that something is very wrong. It's just insane. Sorry. And I say that as a man, by the way, who has hypothyroidism. I'm not putting it out there as a badge, but I just find it. I have hypothyroidism, and even I didn't know this could be a sign of that. If it's TMI, no, I've never experienced this as someone with hypothyroidism. Okay, I never have. But that's why it actually kind of amused me. And I was like, oh, damn. Wow, that's actually a sign for that as well. Chris,
Well,
what's your take?
yeah. Well, if you ever do start lactating, take some, put on eBay. You'll make a lot of money, I bet.
Oh my goodness, this is just
Oh,
so
okay.
wrong.
So if you can't tell, I'm feeling a little silly right now. Um, oh my. I guess the main thing is it goes back to what you said. I think I even alluded to it earlier. Something's wrong here. This is probably not the type of milk that you're going to want to give to a child, milk that's coming from a man. First of all, we still don't have everything in place to probably produce milk that is nourishing to children because there's a lot more that goes into it. I remember it from biology class. There's a lot more that goes into it just other than being able to do it
Mhm.
and so if you have an underlying medical condition, hormonal imbalance, tumors, my goodness, and then of course in the case of trans people, it's going to be reason number two: medications, supplements, that sort of thing. But still, neither thing sounds like something that sounds good for a baby. And so
Mhm.
you know, uh,
Exactly.
I think aren't there some states that are banning hospitals from showing this how to be done or something like that? Or
That I'm
maybe it's
not
not in the
certain of.
Yeah, maybe
That
it's not in the United States. Maybe it's in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Europe is, at least in some ways. In other ways, it's still so far behind us and lost. But in other ways, Europe is moving ahead of us, especially when it comes to protecting children and women from this ideology. So, or at least acknowledging reality when it comes to being a woman. Obviously, with the UK Supreme Court ruling, which Chris and I will be doing a stream on in the very near future. Uh, but with that, let's move on to our last clip of a true insane trans individual. Now, this individual is someone that y'all will probably recognize, Lilly Contino. Known on Instagram as Lilly Tino is the hashtag. I know, right? Um, so obviously, for those of you who are not familiar, for familiar or not familiar with Lilly, Lilly is an individual who, very confused man who first made himself known by going to restaurants and harassing the staff at restaurants, right? Waiters, managers, all that stuff. That when they would say sir or him, any kind of male reference, he would throw a fit and have a huge hissy. Then he moved on to making content targeting children's content. And this now is very much just a targeting of motherhood, which is honestly just true to form for these types of individuals. And I am pretty sure that I wouldn't be shocked if Lilly here is one of those trans individuals that you're talking about. He probably is attracted to women. I actually have never confirmed that.
Oh,
Um,
I picked up on something. Yeah, it's a straight dude, as I
yeah.
suspected. I'll
So
point it out.
here's Lilly attacking motherhood.
Trans women getting pregnant is not as far off as you think. In the past 10 years, 50 babies have been born from a uterus transplant. How this works is a person with a damaged or missing uterus gets a new uterus. Then they get pregnant, then they give birth to a child via C-section. The implanted uterus is then removed so that the person doesn't need to be on anti-rejection meds for the rest of their life. So far, these implants have only been attempted on cis women, but there's nothing that says it
couldn't work on a trans woman. After all, my hormone levels are pretty similar to a cisgender woman, so why not? The main thing in the way is that the science is new, so there aren't enough surgeons out there to do the testing. So it's less about if we can do it and more about when we can do it. Imagine a trans woman using her own DNA along with her partner's egg to create life. Wouldn't that be incredible? Some researchers think it's already possible and that it'll be attempted in the next year or two. Now, to be clear, I don't want kids. And even if this was an option, I wouldn't be interested. But there are so many trans women out there who want this, and they have just as much of a right to pregnancy as anyone else. Let's get this thing off. See, it was.
All right, Chris, I'm still looking for the signs that facial reconstruction surgery or whatever took.
But did you pick up on? Did you pick up on the thing that lets me know that he's straight?
I know when he said that the woman's partner can use her eggs, right? Can use their eggs, right? Yeah. So that
wouldn't have naturally come out of a gay man's mouth.
That would not have come out of a homosexual man's mouth. No, it would not have. But it did this individual. So clearly he is a heterosexual man who wants to be a lesbian. First of all, there's the whole moral discussion around this this technology, even with actual women, or as this nut puts it, cis women, right? There's a whole moral conundrum and conversation to be had as well before you introduce the trans ideology, right? Because it made me think, the wording here by Lilly made me think of Jurassic Park, right? That they were so busy thinking whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think whether or not they should. I mean, and right here, I don't know what dinosaur I'm looking at right here. I feel like I'd be insulting T-Rex or Triceratops, but
but Dilophosaurus Rex? I don't know.
But yeah, I just honestly, the whole thing is disturbing to me personally. The only good news in all this was that Lilly has no plans to have kids. I mean, that right there is at least somewhat of a silver lining around a very dark cloud. Chris, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, that's for sure, Kevin. I totally agree with you. Yeah, so the notes that I made obviously hit on the thing that we kind of like were joking about at the beginning. It's like, yeah, so the vast majority of these fruitcakes were straight guys. Okay. So anyway, I guess my question is why? Why would you do this? I mean, especially for a trans woman, but I'm not even sure why I understand that it needs to be done for, even, an actual woman. I was a little confused by this, because it's like, not that I'm like some huge proponent of surrogacy or anything like that, but I mean, I could see a woman who can't have kids but still produces her own eggs to use a surrogate. So it's still your child. It's still your husband's DNA or donor's DNA or whatever the case may be. And so it's all yours. Why do we have to even I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing to me that this even needs to be explored like at all.
Yeah. It is a very strange thing, Chris. I mean, and first of all, if you think about it, like this is what I mean. Like when Chris and I Chris and I have had many conversations about logical consistency, right? One of the things that has shaped my path politically, socially, culturally, has been a quest for logical consistency. If I have a view, if I have a certain value and I apply it here, am I applying my value in a way that's logically consistent? This is actually something that I have strived for. Now, what's interesting with those on the especially on the left, especially pushing this technology, right, is they actually are they are saying that being able to have children is a defining characteristic of womanhood. Now, not all women, real women, can have children. That's true. But this is actually, ironically enough, and that's what the trans ideology that's pushed today, right? And this is what's humorous about it and sad about it too, is it actually uses the stereotypes, uses like what they would have called stereotypes. It uses these things to actually say that this is what a woman is, therefore we want to mimic it.
Well, and
And
evidently Lily also thinks that hormone levels is all that it takes to be a woman. And I've also noticed a lot of weird focus from so-called trans women, especially on their hormone levels. And it's
mm,
like, oh no, baby, no. It takes a lot more than hormone levels to be a woman. You know, I could be
mm,
a jacked up guy with a hormonal problem myself and probably have female hormone levels, you know, but and we call that a DSD. You know, so yeah, that's not all it takes to be a woman is your hormone levels.
mm. So, folks, we're going to come back to this, but we are going to move on quick to the SNL clip that everyone was talking about recently. Just because Chris and I talked about this, and I think we're in agreement for the most part, is that so many people really missed, I feel, the point of the SNL clip, or at least how I interpreted it, because I actually have watched the entire thing, the entire clip in all its context. And from when I've interacted with people, especially conservative people, they have not watched the entire clip. We are going to go through the entire clip and watch it because there's different views. The left obviously freaking out about, that it's making fun of same-sex parents or whatever marriage, but also on the right, this idea that it's a condemnation of same-sex relationships. And that's not what this SNL skit, at least how I interpreted it in its entirety, what it is saying. It is poking fun at identity, and it's mostly, I think, poking fun at the sensitivities surrounding identities and what you are not supposed to say, which you can and can't say to specific identities in our current culture. So with that, without delay, we are going to be watching the entire SNL clip just so you can all get the full context, and we will be pausing it periodically, but we just really wanted to drive this home.
Hey guys, so we had an interesting situation happen with this video, and it turns out that NBC Universal didn't like the fact that we played that Saturday Night Live clip, so we had to go ahead and edit that out. But if you just go ahead and continue watching, you'll see our reaction and summary to the entire clip. So, thanks a lot. Thanks for understanding. Take care.
So clearly, I mean, clearly, this is like, okay, so we just watched this entire thing, right? I'm sorry, I challenge anyone. I challenge someone on the left to tell me how, well, of course they're on the left, so they would be offended by this, but I challenge them to tell me how this is homophobic, by the way. And then on the right, I challenge them to tell me how this is a condemnation of same-sex marriage, of, two men being together, or heck, even two women being together, or even and it's a different discussion altogether, which of Stream for the Future, but even same-sex parenting, right? Because I don't see where this is condemning any of that. I see where it's making fun of the sensitivities that are very much on the left.
Absolutely, Kevin. Absolutely, 100%. And that's why I'm so glad that you decided to play this. I mean, when we discussed it the other night, I was just like, yeah, this is perfect. Um, I'm with you. I don't see how this is anti-gay in any sort of way. So it's not a condemnation of same-sex marriage or same-sex parenting. Because, like I said earlier, this could have easily been scripted with a straight couple and been probably just as funny, you know? So it's not a condemnation of
Yeah.
that. And then it's, it should be a mirror to the left for them to kind of take a
Mhm.
look at themselves, because comedy is often a mirror on society.
Mhm.
And it's like, take a look at yourselves. This is what you sound like to everybody,
Yep.
and the left totally missed that as well.
Yep.
So I
Absolutely.
I was just kind of like, after this blew up on social media and everybody was watching it and stuff like that, and some of the posts that I saw, I was just like, well, our country is not as smart as I thought it was.
Well, it's also so I think also, and I want to touch on this point before I really get to the reason why I chose this clip. I discussed a little bit, but it's also at the core actually brings us back to the whole trans ideology. Um, I also though because when they see this situation, a lot of people are probably going to think surrogacy and IVF, right? Now, I'm pro-life. I'm actually overall against IVF, but again, that applies whether it's a homosexual couple using it or a heterosexual couple. And the reason why is because you're usually creating multiple embryos and they're not all going to be used. They're either usually going to remain on ice or even be destroyed, which is straight up abortion. So that's where I come from, but that's across the board, right? That's another thing. Just because this happens to be where this could have been IVF, right? It's not, I think sometimes in our culture there's becoming this over association of IVF with homosexual couples, which, don't get me wrong, it's used a lot, but heterosexuals have been using it for a very long time. And for me, I am logically consistent. My issue is with IVF, with the destruction of a human life that's been created. And it doesn't have to specifically do with the makeup of the couple that is partaking in the IVF. It's just, but to get to the final for me, Chris, why I chose this, out of, especially after all the conversations we've been having, is because this SNL clip, right, highlights what this entire stream is about. At the end of the day, only women can be mothers, right? A trans woman, a man pretending to be a woman, cannot be a mother. A homosexual couple, two men, cannot be mothers. They can be many things to a child, but they can't actually be mothers. A single father who's heterosexual and who's raising his child alone, whether it's his wife left him or she's passed away, he still cannot be a mother. He's probably an amazing father, but he cannot be a mother. Mother's Day is not for the trans woman. Mother's Day is not for the homosexual male couple. And Mother's Day is not for the single father. Mother's Day is for the mothers. And that
Hmm.
is why I chose all the clips for this stream, including this SNL clip.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more with you, Kevin. I mean, and we have talked about it before, what it's like for two men to be parents, and it's really not something that I want to go into too deeply right now, but I'll just say I have no problem with two men being parents, and I have no problem with two women being parents. um we have discussed that studies show that the father tends to be the more important person in the outcomes of a decent child upbringing, but regardless, we know that mothers are obviously quite important too. So, I mean, if two men decide to, have a baby or something, I mean, that's perfectly fine. But, they might want to make sure that they're also showing that baby um, positive female role models, in their life and that sort of thing, just because that's good, and that single father, even if he's heterosexual, should be doing the exact same thing. So the
Mhm.
thing is, guys, Kevin and I aren't asking homosexual couples to do anything that we wouldn't ask that single heterosexual father to do as well. It's the exact same thing, you know. And so kids need as well-rounded of an upbringing as possible. But back to the main point of the show, what's really important here is that mothers are mothers, fathers are fathers. You can't mix up the two. You just simply can't. And neither is going to be able to fully take the place of the other. That's just simply not how it works.
Yep.
So I really appreciate the videos that you picked out, Kevin. Some of them had me boiling through the roof. Like, this one was hilarious, so I think it was a great one to go out on. So, hands
Absolutely.
off to, I mean, hats off to Kevin, and a
And
little round of
everyone,
applause.
absolutely. So, everyone, before we wrap up, I do want to say this is we are taking next Monday off, which is Monday, May 12th, day after Mother's Day. I just kind of need the break from time to time. Plus, we do want to do things for the Mother's Day weekend. So, with that in mind, that's why we chose to do this stream now. But we will be returning on Monday, May 19th at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we definitely will have an amazing show planned for you, which we will go into detail in future posts between now and then. But in the meantime, please keep an eye out for short videos from our current streams that we have. Those will be coming your way. Also, please like, subscribe, and share. And also, we want to see you in the comments, folks. We love engaging with you. So please. And I guess I'll wrap this up with Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Chris, what do you want to wrap it up with?
Happy Mother's Day to Loretta, and you know who you are. So, I love you very much, Mom. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Take care. God bless, and we will see you when we return.